Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Mourners gathered in Memphis Wednesday for the funeral of Tyre Nichols, the 29-year-old black father whose death after a brutal police beating has sparked protests across the country. Speakers at the funeral included Vice President Kamala Harris and the Reverend Al Sharpton. This is Tyre's mother, Rovon Wells.
Tyre was a beautiful person. And for this to happen to him, it's just unimaginable. I promise you the only thing that's keeping me going is the fact that I really truly believe my son was sent here on an assignment from God.
Newly released documents show 4 of the 5 officers who are facing murder charges for killing Tyre Nichols had faced prior disciplinary complaints. The local district attorney is reportedly considering new charges against the officers, including false reporting for lying on the initial police report. The College Board has revised its curriculum for an advanced placement African-American studies course just weeks after Florida's Republican Governor Ron DeSantis threatened to ban the class in Florida schools. The revised curriculum removes Black Lives Matter, slavery reparations, and queer theory as required topics, while it adds a section on Black conservatism. Many prominent authors and academics have also been removed from the AP curriculum, including the late James Baldwin, the writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, the law professors Michelle Alexander and Kimberly Crenshaw, Professor Barbara Ransby, and the late Bell Hooks. UCLA professor Robin D.G. Kelly, whose writings were also removed from the curriculum, said, quote, "This is deeper than an AP course. This is about eliminating any discussion that might be critical of the United States of America, which is a dangerous thing for democracy," unquote. The College Board announcement came on the first day of Black History Month. The Biden administration's reached an agreement with the Philippines to give the United States access to 4 more military bases in the former U.S. colony. This will allow the U.S. greater access to the South China Sea and Taiwan as tensions rise between Washington and Beijing. The deal was announced after U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Manila. Marcos is the son of the former dictator, Ferdinand Marcos, who was a close U.S. ally. Filipino activists held a protest outside the military camp where Austin and Marcos met. This is former lawmaker and activist Teddy Casino.
Filipinos do not need additional American troops and facilities in the country. It will only serve to increase the tensions in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. And deploying additional facilities and troops in the Philippines will drag the country into the conflict which is between China and the United States.
A Russian missile strike has destroyed an apartment building in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk, killing at least 3 people, injuring 30. This comes as Ukrainian leaders fear Russia has begun its largest offensive since the start of the war. Hundreds of thousands of Russian troops are now inside Ukraine. Meanwhile, Reuters is reporting the United States is preparing to announce a new $2 billion military package for Ukraine that'll include new, longer-range missiles made by Boeing for the first time. In other news on the war, Human Rights Watch has accused the Ukrainian military of using thousands of banned anti-personnel landmines around the eastern city of Izium when it was occupied by Russia. In Burma, leaders of the ruling military junta extended a state of emergency by another 6 months Wednesday, the 2nd anniversary of the coup that overthrew the civilian government of Aung San Suu Kyi. Nearly 3,000 people have been killed over the past 2 years in a brutal crackdown on protests. Across Burma, people took part in a silent protest as streets emptied and businesses shuttered for the day. Protests also took place around the world, including in Tokyo, where members of the Burmese community gathered to speak out on the anniversary of the coup.
In Myanmar, there are so many people being killed and so many houses being burnt down. The people in Myanmar and those of us abroad need to work together to show that our voices are the same.
In related news, a new investigation by The Guardian reveals how the U.S., U.K., and Irish oil and gas service companies have continued to reap massive profits in Burma following the 2021 military coup while propping up the junta. The U.S. companies include Halliburton, Diamond Offshore Drilling, and Baker Hughes. In Britain, 500,000 teachers, civil servants, and train drivers joined a nationwide strike Wednesday, forcing schools to shut down and halting rail service. It was the largest such work stoppage in a generation, coming on the heels of a historic nurses' strike last month. Workers called for fair wages and amidst soaring inflation. Some 300,000 teachers took part in Walkout Wednesday. This is Mary Bousted of the National Education Union.
Teachers are striking in England and Wales today because there has been, over the last 12 years, a really catastrophic long-term decline in their pay. Teachers have lost 13% over that period. That's, in real terms, a huge amount to lose. And that is causing a recruitment and retention crisis in our schools.
A number of students joined their teachers on the street, including 10-year-old Isa Yaboa Sante from London.
School is suffering from our teachers not having enough money to be paid. So I think that I should miss some school because I believe that teachers should have their funding.
In Iran, a couple who posted a video of themselves dancing in the street has been sentenced to 5 years in prison each, according to local reports. 21-year-old Astiaj Hagigi and her fiancé, 22-year-old Amir Mohammed Ahmadi, were arrested after posting a video on Instagram of themselves dancing in front of the Azadi Tower in downtown Tehran. In the video, Astiaj's hair was uncovered. The video was posted in November as nationwide protests following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini rocked Iran. The Republican-controlled House of Representatives has voted 218 to 209 along party lines to move forward with a resolution to remove Democratic Congressmember Ilhan Omar from the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. A final House vote's expected today. In an interview on CNN, Omar said Republicans are targeting her because she is Muslim.
You remember Marjorie Taylor Greene coming to Congress after Rashida and I got sworn in and saying Muslims are infiltrating Congress. You remember Boebert saying that I was a terrorist. What did McCarthy do? He said she apologized and we don't have to worry about her Islamophobia. That never happened. And so these people are okay with Islamophobia. They're okay with trafficking in their own ways in anti-Semitism. They are not okay with having a Muslim have a voice on that committee.
Congressmember Ilhan Omar is the only African Muslim refugee in Congress. In economic news, the Federal Reserve has approved an additional quarter-point hike to its benchmark interest rate. In a statement, the Groundwork Collaborative criticized the Fed's decision, saying, quote, "With today's rate hike, the Fed is pushing us dangerously close to an unnecessary recession that would spell disaster for low-wage workers, workers of color, and vulnerable communities," unquote. Here in New York City, police evacuated an encampment of asylum seekers outside the Watson Hotel late Wednesday, threatening to arrest anyone who didn't leave. Video shows sanitation workers throwing suitcases into a dumpster. The asylum seekers who were recently evicted from the hotel have been protesting the city's plan to house them in a 1,000-bed shelter at a remote terminal in Red Hook, Brooklyn. People who've been staying at the shelter told the group South Bronx Mutual Aid they've had to endure inhumane conditions, including extreme cold. To see our full coverage of the story, go to democracynow.org. And in Washington state, more than 85 people locked up at the Northwest Detention Center immigration prison have launched a hunger strike to protest mistreatment and inhumane conditions. Their demands include nutritious meals, clean facilities, and proper medical care. The prisoners say they're foregoing food despite harsh retaliation from ICE and GEO Group, which runs the detention center. Since the hunger strike started, external communications have been cut off, cells have been locked down, and there are reports that guards in riot gear fired pepper spray at hunger strikers. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman in New York, joined by Democracy Now! Co-host Nermeen Sheikh. Hi, Nermeen.
Hi, Amy, and welcome to our listeners and viewers across the country and around the world.